It's not the products. I use a lot of products in my face, many of them Korean products.
Korean, 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 Korean.
And if you take a walk around Seoul, you can actually see that a lot of people really do have clear, smooth skin. But there are lots of people around the world from different places who also have nice skin. So why has Korean beauty taken up such a spotlight? I would say the obsession with beauty has been around for a while in Korea, long before K beauty came into the West, but it really popped off on an international level in the past 10, 15 years or so. There are many different factors involved when it comes to the rigid beauty standards of Korea and the rest of East Asia, including the fact that you need to attach a photo of yourself when you're applying for a job, and also the fact that Korea is a very homogenous country with a single cultural slash ethnic majority, and pretty much everybody is measured upon the same metric to be considered beautiful without the variations that come with ethnic diversity. For these reasons and many, many more, beauty is and always has been serious business in Korea, but how it reached across the globe is a whole nother story.
In Korea, United Nations troops push on in the cautious advance against the communists. An advance whose purpose, General Ridgway states, is not to seize ground, but to wipe out the enemy.
I'm not sure what shape people think of when they picture Korea in their head, but in my head, it looks like this. But in reality, South Korea actually looks like this. So, what happened to the top part? From 1950 to 1953, Korea went through a devastating war that divided the nation to the north and the south. The Korean War, which happened not long after World War II and the annexation of Korea by Japan, left the country very, very, very poor. In fact, it was one of the poorest countries in the world well into the 60s, and this tiny country without a lot of natural resources got even smaller when it was divided into two. And if your country doesn't have a lot of natural resources to export, then you gotta find something else. And if you don't have a lot of things to export that come from the ground, then your only option is to export stuff that comes from the humans. Which, on a side note, human hair was a huge commodity that was exported out of Korea during this time to make wigs overseas. But anyway, with lots and lots of help from the Korean government, relatively small businesses became major mega corporations that began with exporting electronics but expanded out into all sorts of tech by the 90s. But besides the tech, something else was also happening around the 90s in Korea.
What's up, son? We open up the new chapter. Funky music swing. Here we come.
By the 90s, the Korean idol system was born. Basically, girl groups and boy bands put together by entertainment companies to cater to all the young boys and girls throughout the nation. But once again, Korea is a small country, both geographically and population wise. So these idols started to go overseas to gain larger audiences, first to close neighbors like China and Japan, but eventually further out into other Asian countries and beyond. By the 2010s, these Korean idol groups have fully integrated themselves out into Western audiences as well, with groups like BTS or Blackpink creating huge international fan bases across the globe. I don't care what anybody says, K-pop is not just about the music. One of the major features of K-pop is the beautiful people. Yes, they can sing, yes, they can dance, but most of all, they are beautiful. And with this, it naturally caught the intrigue of international fans on what Korean beauty can be. The flawless, retouched skin, the perfect makeup, the colorfully bleached but somehow still incredibly healthy looking hair, all of this had come into the spotlight. Now, I can go on and on about the false advertising of beauty by K pop, but because that's going off tangent, I will keep it short. Mini story time. So, an acquaintance of mine has worked on a lot of these idol music videos, and the length that these companies go into to retouching is just next level, even compared to the Western counterparts. I mean, I've heard and seen the typical body lengthening, jaw sharpening, eyes expanding, all that kind of stuff. But they even went as far to replacing half the face to the other half to create perfect uncanny symmetry because this is how quote unquote flawless that these idols have to be. I won't say which music video it was for, but it was a boy band, a very popular one at that. So, with this bar that K pop has set for beauty, it was inevitable for the beauty industry to catch a clue and start marketing and exporting Korean beauty products almost as its own category. You have moisturizers, you have toners, you have serums, and then you have K beauty. Not to mention all these eye catching articles about the 7 step, 10 step, 15 step Korean beauty routines got people thinking, wow, that's a ridiculous amount of steps. But also, it kind of plants a seed in your head like, these Koreans take beauty really seriously. They must know something that we don't. But let me tell you, I know a lot of Koreans, and I don't know a single person who has a 10 step beauty routine. Most people go through the average 3, 4, maybe 5 products on the daily. And I'm sure there are people out there who have these crazy elaborate routines, but it's definitely not the norm. So, most Koreans use the same amount of products as the average person in the West. So, why does it seem like they have better skin?
Why we're surrounded by.
As I mentioned earlier, Korea is a very homogenous country, and this homogenous culture dictates that there is a certain beauty standard to be met in order to be considered beautiful, and much of it revolves around the clean, natural look. This doesn't mean that people value actual bare, natural faces. It just means that they like a more conservative way of decorating your face. If Western beauty is about being sexy, Korean beauty is more about being soft. So, not too much liner, not too much lashes, not too much contour. Everything is pretty soft and subtle. But what's not so subtle is the emphasis on clear, even, poreless, often pale skin. On a side note, anybody who has tried product photography or rendering will know that super simple, minimalistic compositions are usually one of the most difficult setups to execute because there's just not that many room for flaws on an empty canvas. Okay, I'm going way off topic now, but for example, Apple ad campaigns are known to be notoriously grueling within the advertising world, even though 99% of their commercials are just shiny rectangles rotating with some text, because every single highlight, reflection, pixel is scrutinized under the microscope because there's nothing else there except the shiny rectangle. In fact, it was actually not uncommon for artists and designers to set a higher rate for Apple projects because everybody knew it was going to be hell. But back to business. The canvas, aka your skin, is so important that Korea's been making skin trends into a thing, from glass skin to dewy, watery skin, for ages. It's not that people from other countries or other cultures don't value nice skin. It's just that it's an especially important part of Korean beauty in many ways. This is not inherently a bad thing, but detailed critique can soon turn into nitpicking and scrutinizing, and this overall hyper focus on how you look on the outside can turn harmful so quickly. Obviously, you don't have to be a slob, but you can easily end up torturing yourself over that one pimple, just as how staring at 100-pound bodies every day is not going to be good for your body image. Most people desire smooth, even, poreless, wrinkleless skin, and wanting this doesn't make you vain or dumb or weird. It's a completely natural tendency under the society that we live in, which values youth and beauty like no other. But when the pursuit of beauty becomes a necessity, as it so often is, it can start eating away at you from the inside, especially in your impressionable teenage years. But this societal pressure to conform to beauty standards is especially harsh in Korea, which is why Korean people often put more effort and time into just general upkeep because it just matters more here. A common thing that a lot of Korean people say when they move to a Western country is that people don't seem to care as much about how they look or what they wear because they're so used to keeping up with pretty rigid standards of outward presentation. Whereas a lot of foreigners who come to Korea say that people seem to be more put together even when doing super casual things like running errands or doing chores. But because appearance is so important in Korea, there's also a big market and a big demand for all things beauty. And this includes skincare products and makeup, but expands out into plastic surgery and dermatology. And as everyone knows already, South Korea is the mecca of plastic surgery. So if you want to get work done, get it done in Seoul because these doctors are busy. The most common plastic surgery procedures are the double eyelid surgery and nose jobs, but a huge part of the medical beauty industry is not going under the knife, but going under the laser. Dermatology and medical skin procedures are much cheaper in Korea than in the US, and things like Botox, Fraxel laser, or even just spa treatments are much more affordable. And dermatologists are everywhere, and I mean everywhere. You can easily find a clinic in any given neighborhood in Seoul, and even your local regular doctor may offer some kind of cosmetic procedures. And these clinics aren't filled with just rich older women. Everyone is there. Young women, teenagers, even off duty soldiers on break from mandatory military service, everyone. So, while your average American teenager may pick up some Claricel in Walgreens when they break out in hormonal acne, a Korean teenager might be taken to the doctor by their mom to formulate an entire medical battle plan to fight those pimples. Not every teenager, but more than you would think. I also do have some positive theories though on why a lot of Korean people may have nice skin. Because of the focus on skin care and skin health, sun protection is taken very seriously. And if there's any legit advice on protecting your skin, it's to get it away from the sun. The sun can do some real damage and accelerate aging like no other, so a lot of Korean people use sunscreen religiously. And if there's any Korean beauty product that's actually better than Western ones, it's the sunscreens. They absorb better, they're more lightweight, and they do better under makeup than any Western sunscreens that I've tried. I used to use the one from Cell Fusion B for years until I switched over to this one from Zool. You can barely see it, but it's the sheerest and the most lightweight one that I've used so far. So, religious sun care is definitely one of the biggest reasons behind good skin among Koreans, but I also think there may be some holistic reasons as well. I'm all for medical science and dermatology procedures, but I do think that lifestyle and diet definitely affects your skin health as well. Koreans drink a lot, they smoke a lot, they work way too much, they don't sleep enough. It's a fast paced, high stress lifestyle. But many people do keep a relatively healthy diet, and traditional Korean foods takes up a lot of most people's eating habits. There are lots and lots of delicious, unhealthy snacks, fast foods, junk foods everywhere in Korea. But they're not necessarily incorporated into people's daily eating habits, at least not yet. A lot of regular Korean food is just rice, variations of fermented vegetables or fish, and lots of soup. I swear, Korean people think that you're gonna choke and die if you don't have some kind of hot liquid with your meal. It's not so much that Korean food is exceptionally healthy compared to other cuisines. It's just that highly processed and fast foods are not nearly as prevalent in people's diets as it is in the US, for example. This is slowly starting to change, however, as people's lives get busier and processed foods become cheaper. But I hope that the traditional diet will persevere because it feels like it's the only thing that's keeping the Korean people's health together at this point with their insane lifestyles. So, in conclusion, I would say that the products don't hurt and the sunscreens are definitely better than the Western ones. But the big reason behind why a lot of Korean people have nice skin is not because of the products, it's the doctors. And the societal pressure and the rigid beauty standards that emphasizes perfection at all times. Thanks for watching and please like and subscribe for more.